real problem. But you are not going to inflict the symbol of the real problem on us. Symbols are important, and we're taking it away. You're not going to, well, we can't stop them from walking around in it, but we can stop them from teaching in it, from getting public service in it, from going to hospitals in it, and everything else. So, yeah, we have to do that. We're not doing it, but we have to do it.
Okay, next question.
Okay. Well, getting back to the idea of the tyranny on campuses these days, I don't know if you, unfortunately I don't have the names, it was just last night on the Communist Broadcasting Corporation, I mean the CBC, about one academic who's really, I guess, very middle, a woman, middle of the road or even left, to the left, had the temerity to, she wrote an article in Slate magazine about the issue of the rapes on campus, and she suggested that binge drinking, equally by women as well by men, that young women may bear also some responsibility to don't binge drink, because you will then be targeted by the particular predators who are looking for that. Well, she made a very well-reasoned argument on this, but this has brought down the wrath of the entire feminist movement of the United States upon her in the last couple of weeks. I don't know the names. It was in Slate magazine, but it's all of a sudden the post.
I think what you read was an interview. You weren't talking about the interview with Serena Williams, were you? Or that was in another magazine. That was in Village Voice, I think. But in any case, yes, there's been a couple of people that have had the temerity to say that women who binge drink and pass out dead drunk at parties where there's a lot of sex going on do bear some responsibility for what happens to them. And I'm one of the people that has written a column like that. And yes, you do get the wrath of the feminists. But my feeling is that what they're really saying is women never bear any responsibility for anything. And only
they're
men.
always victims, and there's the perpetrator.
Well, it's not just that they're victims. Their own behavior. They do not have to answer for their own behavior, ever. So, binge drinking is a very bad thing to do. But like in all these online bullying cases, the slut shaming, the parties where these women, like Ratia Parsons, the girls that committed suicide, they didn't commit suicide after the party. They committed suicide after they were slut shamed. Days, weeks later, and they were embarrassed. They were not embarrassed to be at parties where they were dead drunk and sleeping and bare naked in front of everybody, because how did they get those pictures if they weren't having sex in front of other people? They were. And having sex with one guy right after the other. That did not embarrass them. What embarrassed them was to be slut-shamed afterwards. So nobody commented on the fact that where were the parents in this? This was a 15-year-old girl. Where was she getting the liquor? Whose house was it at? Why were there no parents at that party? Who allows kids to take over a whole house at the age of 15, drink, and have sex in their house? Somebody owns that house. Like, nobody has to take responsibility. The only people that they expect to take responsibility are the 16-year-old boy, also dead drunk, by the way, but responsible for what they do.
And this was the temerity of this person to say that there's multiple responsibilities here. They're now trying to remove her from her academic position.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, there's just a total lack of freedom.
Well, what she said was she's an apostate. She, it's like she drew a picture of Mohammed or something, it's the same principle. Feminism is just as tough on its infidels or its apostates as Islam is. They die career deaths. Their careers get beheaded.
You touched on the heat you took when you write about pit bulls. You tell me,
I'm glad you're interested. No, seriously.
you made me interested. Yeah. It wasn't before this evening. It's interesting. I think you said that you were taken to task for negatively stereotyping them. Now, This whole notion of stereotyping, we had a young man who's a student at Ottawa U, ostensibly a bit of ideological schizophrenia surrounding this. Do these people, are they on your side when it comes to negative stereotyping of males and fathers? Do they,
They don't go
say,
that far. They only
Yeah.
think about dogs.
only does? Because it seems, I'll make a statement, I'd like you to comment. When you listen to, I guess, progressive thinkers, I think they refer to themselves as progressive or social justice types. Some of the most fantastic stereotypes emanate from this movement. I think you've touched on them very eloquently this evening and in your writings. Men, misogyny, violence, patriarchal, white people, racist, Euro and ethnocentric, etc. But yet when you touch on a stereotype of which they do not approve, let's say you say something mildly critical of First Nations or Aboriginal peoples, they use what I call the victimological notwithstanding clause. You can't say they're all like that. You can't paint everyone with the same brush. But then, I'm sure you have much more debating experience than myself, you're much higher profile, you can counter and say, well, what is your view of men and white people? It is what? Then they'll outline the characteristics of some that are even more pejorative. And you'll remind them and say, well, you just said you're not supposed to say that if people are not like that. How do they?
Yeah, you can't debate with logic.
Yeah.
You can't debate with logic. There's sort of buttons that you press, that they press. I'm just reading a book that just came out by Gary McHale, who's about Caledonia. It makes your head explode. If you want to see racism in action, this is, when First Nations are violent or, whatever they do, nothing ever happens. Anybody that protests, even peaceful, especially peaceful protesting, they're jumped on by the police. They're disturbing the peace because then they get the,
My friend Terry Glavin is saying, we were talking about, Terry's done a lot of work amongst the First Nations of British Columbia. And he was talking to one of his First Nations friends about, was there a genocide by white people of First Nations? He said, well, there was a genocide of this First Nation killing that First Nation. I don't know the names. There was that First Nation that killed everybody, the man and woman of that First Nation. We had like 15 of them. Those were genocides, for sure. But we don't talk about those genocides at all.
No, I've known that too, that many nations, Aboriginal nations, exterminated others. And of course we don't know about them because they're not here anymore to make their case that they were victims too. But that's part of the game. I mean, it is a game that people play, and you have to know the rules. If you know the rules, you get along fine. If you break the rules, then you lose your job or you castigated.
Try the Comanches.
Okay. Let's really want to.
Okay. I have a question. I just want to clarify a point, though, earlier before I do this. I think that the issue, when you're talking about like women getting blackout drunk and like whether they should accept blame or whatnot, I think the issue isn't that a lot of feminist groups are suggesting that they're not at fault or that they shouldn't be doing that. I think the issue is more derived from the fact that getting raped isn't an acceptable punishment for getting blacked out drunk, which is where all the rage comes from with reactions like that.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
But my other question, I suppose, is unrelated. I suppose I'm really interested to know, like, why you think that you have the right, or like not the right, but like why you're suggesting that women shouldn't be able to empower themselves in any way they see fit, whether that is to wear a burqa or not. I mean, like, why can't they empower themselves by wearing a burqa? I'm interested in that.
Because they're not empowering themselves. That's bullshit.
And why can't, but like,
Have you ever worn a burqa? Have you
can't
ever worn a burqa?
they define their own empowerment? Why are you defining their empowerment for them?
Because, no, they can't define their own empowerment, because that is the whole point of wearing a burqa, is to indicate that you are a person who belongs to someone else. That is not empowerment. And there is no way you can gloss it over to make it empowerment. You can say it is, because that's kind of the game that people play. Oh, Naomi Wolf puts on a burqa, I felt so liberated. So she wore it for an hour and she flitted around the city feeling very liberated. Then she went home and took it off. These people, there are women who can never take it off. Their teeth are rotting because they don't get any sun or vitamin D. So please, to say that this is empowering when it is something that no rational human being would ever do to themselves, I'm sorry, they're coming out of a culture in which they are considered we're not even talking about second-class citizens, in which they're not considered citizens.
If-
They are the property.
Slave.
of
If a woman, I think if a woman literally wants to take it off and is unable to, I wasn't defending that. What I was defending was a woman's decision to empower herself in any way she sees fits. Whether it seems perhaps obscure to you, but a woman's own right to define her own empowerment. Isn't that an essential right that she should have?
If she wants to do that in Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia, although I don't think you'll find many people in Saudi Arabia or Afghanistan saying, we're empowered women, but if they want to do that in places where that is the custom, I have no problem with that. When they come to this place, they have to act like a human being. Human beings in society, in a free society, do not cover their face. They are fellow citizens. They interact with each other. You cannot interact when your face is covered. So whether it's for religious reasons or whether they feel empowered for any reason under the sun, then let them dance around their house empowered with their burqa on. When they're coming into the street to talk to me, I want to see their face. I don't want them to have the advantage of seeing me and I can't see them. So you want to, we can dance about, talk about how many angels dance on a pin. But this whole thing with empowerment is you're just using the word empowerment as a kind of like shell game. We all know what empowerment is. A burqa is not empowering. But if you want to call it empowering, fine. Let it be empowering, but not in my space. Not in the space of other free citizens. You act like a citizen. That's not a citizen's, this is not what a citizen does. They don't cover their face.
Okay,
I'll agree to disagree, but I'll move on anyway. I'll let the next
Thank you.
question go.
Elsa, let's have a last question, and we'll
Okay, it's actually, I'm really interested in being able to get through to people, and a book that I've had recommended recently, in fact, just arrived, but it's in Montreal and I'm here, is the H-A-I-D-T's, The Righteous Mind. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yes, I have heard, yes.
And
I've seen the excerpts.
online, because my thing is, it's one thing to have an opinion, it's another one is how do you reach somebody who's in that kind of space? So,
How do you reach somebody who wears a burqa and thinks they're empowered? Oh.
Self-righteous. He's like, a burqa is, what was just heard now?
All right, so I'm self-righteous?
No,